Welcome to Francine's Cuckoo Hair. I'm Francine, and here are some tips that could be helpful to you, whether you are a woman in your 50s like myself, or if you are a woman of any age, quite frankly. These are some tips that might be helpful when you're thinking about braiding your hair. Here's one that would apply specifically to women who are considering wearing gray or considering wearing colors like blonde that don't necessarily match your root color. I'm in my 50s, and surely any woman can wear any color of hair that she wants, but I feel like I have earned the right to wear gray when I want. Now, I will be really quick to throw on some copper hair, some blonde, whatever, but I am really kind of getting into appreciating and enjoying the beauty of wearing gray hair. So, one thing that you might encounter when you're wearing lighter colors than your own hair or hair colors that don't necessarily match your roots is the fact that they don't match. Now, I went ahead and just, stuck with this. Even though this hair is like a silver color and my roots are darker, I didn't really do much to change it, but there have been times when I have found it bothersome and I have done a couple of things. The number one thing would be to use some As I Am temporary color in like a silver color. I don't know if they call it silver or gray, but it definitely does the trick when you want to like make a seamless segue between your hair and the hair that you've added. When I don't have that on hand, I will sometimes resort even to using like a little eyeshadow. I have this little silver frosty eyeshadow, and sometimes I'll use like the NYX shadow, like the jumbo pen, and just kind of color in the roots. I have done that also with blonde hair. I would use one of the lighter gold tones in the jumbo, but you could do that to sort of camouflage that little transition from your dark hair to the lighter hair. Another thing that I do that you might find helpful, this could be helpful to any woman, I'll call it the number two, is instead of braiding your hair like in a 3-strand braid, consider doing 2-strand twists instead. I feel like it has the same impact, but it takes much less time. I put this whole head of these twists in my head in under 2 hours. And that leads me to the third thing that can save you time. And that would be to consider doing crochet instead of just like twisting the hair on your own natural hair. Now that serves a couple of different purposes. That gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of like where you actually put the twist. When you are adding it to your own natural hair, you are sort of confined to like wherever you have enough hair. But if you are doing this on a braided foundation, then it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of where you can actually place your twist. I placed them really close together, like up against this cornrow, and then I was able to, decide where I wanted them to fall and be fuller throughout. One thing that I have encountered when working with women in our age group and younger women as well is that sometimes the distribution of hair on your head can yield a result that is not complimentary. And when I say that, I mean that sometimes your hair is really thin up here. Sometimes there's a pattern of hair loss that women of any age can experience, but particularly when you are in your 40s and 50s and above that, very often you can experience like a good amount of hair loss up here, and that will pretty much limit you to having this look sparse and flat and having a lot of hair around here, which to me, when I see someone with their hair like that, I feel like it is just not complimentary no matter how old you are. But for a woman, it's like the equivalent of a George Jefferson. Like you have this like flat here and like all this hair out here. It can just look like not great. I personally don't like that look of fullness on the side and really flat on top to the extent where it just like reveals that you don't have fullness up in the top. Now, another thing that happens that I experienced, and this is something that I was actually born with, but it's gotten, I think, a bit more extreme as I've moved into my 50s, which is like my hairline. I was going to say that it's not what it used to be, but I'm going to say that it never was. I might try to find a picture that I could share, but my hairline has like just never been doing what like I would hope for it to do. And so for that reason, that's one of the reasons why I'm particularly fond of the middle part, because I feel like it lends a lot of, it has a lot of forgiveness just embedded in it. So that would be a thing to consider when you're considering where to part your hair. Now, I have seen people, and I feel, of course, everything is up to the individual, but I have seen people like do a part like right here that is smack dab in the middle of like the most recessed area of your hairline. And then, you know, you like do the flip over this way, but this side is just not looking right. So for myself, and you might find it helpful if you're experiencing that, to maybe find a place in your head where the part sits well. If you are not into wearing a middle part all the time, you could maybe consider doing something that's off center, the whole goal being that you would have some hair coming down here that could camouflage or like make a complementary angle along the sides of your face. Another reason why I like middle parts, and my face tends to be on the rounder side, and I like the look of having something that breaks up the continuity so that you're not just, you know, it's just not with all the time. Sometimes I do like wear my hair off of my face, and you know, I don't mind exposing my face. I think that that can look very fresh too. But for the most part, I find it helpful to usually just use a middle part, or like I said, something that's just slightly off center. You could even angle it this way, and you know, then you have sort of an extra part of hair coming over this side. I'll probably just do better to show that in another video. I'll save that for another day. But as I mentioned, I did 2-strand twists instead of doing 3-strand braids, and that takes a lot less time. But another thing that I did that was really helpful, and I may have already mentioned that, is that I used a crochet technique instead of your traditional technique. Now, the technique that I used is a little bit different too than the way that you might ordinarily consider crocheting braids or twists into your hair. Very often when you're doing a crochet with twists or something, you're going to use hair that you got from the beauty supply store or you ordered that is already in like a twisted form. But I didn't do that because I cannot personally, this is just my personal thing, I have such a problem with when you put the twist up in your hair and you loop it through, and there's this like little loop everywhere, and it just creates this bulk to me that I don't find complimentary. I am not a fan of like having these bulky roots, lots of scalp exposed. That's just me. I don't care for that look. So what I did was I took the loose strands of hair and I threaded them through with the crochet hook. And then once I got it through where I wanted it to be, then I went ahead and twisted it. Now that, I feel like it gives you a lot of flexibility. I had mentioned that with where you place the twist. Another thing that I do, I'm always cognizant of like what's going to be healthy for my hairline or your hairline if I'm giving somebody advice. So what I like to do is in areas where I feel like where I feel a little ouch when I'm putting the hair in. I'm like, okay, this is a sensitive area. I might skip that area. And I was experiencing that today right up in here. So what I did was I made twists. I made a couple twists, and just because I didn't want to put the hair right here, because I feel like a hairstyle is nice, it's cute or whatever, but let's think about tomorrow too. Let's think about avoiding things that are going to be detrimental down the line. So it looks cute, like if I have this extra hair up here, but I'm not willing to sacrifice putting that extra weight on here when my hair is feeling sensitive. So I just made one twist here, put it on a pin, and I, just stuck that right in here. Did the same thing on the other side, and that can also be a nice way to fill in areas where there are gaps. The other thing that I did was that I used like a kinky kind of Marley hair. Even though I wanted it to have like a sort of sleek look in the end, I found that having that kinkier hair in the roots, just to me, looks more natural. It's just more compliant when you're trying to put it in, and it just gives you a little bit more coverage. So I went ahead, and when I was done with the twists, I just sealed them by dipping them in hot water. Now, I know that there's controversy about dipping the hair in hot water, but I saw a really interesting video that I will try to share down below. And it was talking about some of the skewed elements of the Consumer Reports study. The basic conclusion, don't quote me on this, I'm not a doctor, I am not a scientist, I am just sharing what I heard, and like I said, I'll share the video, was that the amounts of hair that they were talking about, like that there were carcinogenic components in, they were presenting the information as if you were eating the hair, not as if you were having exposure, like on your skin or, ventilation or whatever, but actually eating the hair. And the person in this explanation, who is a scientist, she is a chemist, a PhD chemist, she was saying that you would have to consume a small yarn ball size of hair daily for it to have a carcinogenic effect. Like I said, don't quote me on this, do your own research, but that is why I'm still comfortable with dipping this hair in hot water. But again, do your own research and be true to your own thoughts about it. I'm just sharing mine. But at any rate, I went ahead and dipped this in the hot water to make it more sleek on the ends and like a little fuller at the top. And as you're maturing, just having that extra coverage in the top, it can make such a tremendous difference in the overall look of the style. So those are just some of the tips that I wanted to share with you guys. And I can't promise that I'm going to do this because I really want to make this channel more about inspiration and information than actual how-tos, because there are so many how-tos out there. But at times when I'm doing something, I'm using a little bit different technique, I will do my best, and I'm not promising, but I will do my best to try and supplement this video with something technical so that you can understand how I did this. If you would like that, please leave that in the comments below. Also, I really would appreciate if you would subscribe to this channel. If you have any comments, I just ask you to candidly share them below, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. And thirdly, please give us a thumbs up. I hope that I will see you here again soon.